Welcome to the January episode of the Library Show. Boy, do we have a variety of speakers today. The first one is John Dalton. John runs a program for the Lower Merion Libraries and other places too on great books. Well, as those of you who watch know, I'm a former high school English teacher, so this is very appealing to me, quite honestly. John, welcome to the Library Show.
It's nice meeting you, Lenore.
Thank you. It is a pleasure. Now, I see that you're starting on January 22nd with your first great book. Let me step back for just a moment. How did the whole great books concept come into being? It's been around for a while, but I don't know how it started.
Actually came out of the University of Chicago, but with Mortimer Adler, and I think a gentleman named Hutchins.
Yes.
And during the 60s and 70s, it was promoted by the Great Books Foundation out of Chicago. And at that time in Philadelphia, we had a man named Is Wax that started everything going as far as groups in the Philadelphia area.
Okay, well, I think it's a great concept, and Hutchins is certainly a giant in education terms, and he really promoted the thoughts and the philosophies that he believed in. The books this year, how were they selected?
Usually I do the selection, to be honest. I've tended to keep things not too long. We've currently been doing poetry, essays, short stories. We have a stress on doing short stories. And in the last few years, ever since COVID, we've been doing 3 or 4 novellas during the year.
And I understand that you even supply that to the people who are participating, the shorter.
Yes, I can't send the novels or the novellas out to people. They have to purchase those. But usually the short stories and essays I mail.
Okay. So how do people register for this particular program?
All they have to do is send me their email address and information about themselves if they're interested.
Have that flashing across the bottom of the screen, so it will be everybody can get a chance to write that down and they can contact you. Is there any deadline for when they have to have their note to you in by?
Well, I guess I would prefer to know that they're going to participate in the beginning of the month.
Okay, so early in January, if you could do it. This is not going to happen till the 3rd week in January. And by the way, for those of you who are really interested, and I'm sure it's quite a lot, this is going to be happening the 3rd week of the month from January right through until May, with different kinds of things to be discussed. And the discussion time is actually 2 hours. So it will be very thorough. John, you had said something to me about the philosophy of the discussions, how you're going to do that. Could you share that with our audience, please?
So we use a shared inquiry method. Basically, the leader of the group is supposed to be a facilitator and ask questions which allow the participants to engage in a conversation or dialogue without using outside resources. So we want to put everybody on an egalitarian level so that they can, communicate with each other and not bring in experts, into the discussion.
How many people usually sign up for these?
We have a core of about 20 people. Not everybody always participates. I would say on a general basis, we have about 10 to 12 people who participate regularly, each month. And I've also been using another person to be a facilitator that I'm training for other Great Books events. He has a PhD in psychology and worked with children primarily, and a lot of the members of our group actually have some exposure to psychology.
Oh, that's terrific. I think it's very smart of you to plan for the future. One of the lines I always hear about being a president is the first duty of a president is to plan for a successor. So that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about that at this point in my life.
No, that's very wise. I thank you for coming on. I do want to emphasize to the audience, this will be a virtual discussion. So you don't have to show up at Ballard Kinwood Library. You do have to contact John at his number. And I hope that you will join us in this great discussion of great books. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Library Show. We often have features about books, as we just did, but the libraries also have programs in a variety of areas, and this one is about food, specifically Indian food. Mayuri Bhargava and Hilary Jones are working together to create some really terrific programming. It's been going on since September, but I thought the January one was a particularly good one to feature because it's an entire Indian meal. Mayuri, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you, and it's nice to have you on the Library Show. I was particularly taken by the variety of foods you're planning to make, and I understand that it's not just you who are going to make it. How does this class work?
So we do an Indian cooking lesson every other month. The last one we took was in September, and the next one that we are taking is on 20th of January. It's on 20th of January, and it's from 2 to 4 o'clock, where we will be making a complete Indian meal. It will start with a guava limeade, and then we'll make a saag chola, which is spinach and chickpeas, and we will make a salad of cucumber and lemon and ginger dressing, and we'll make cumin rice and pineapple dip. Can you imagine? All this we will make in 2 hours. The registration will open 3 weeks before the class, so that will be around the end of December, and we are taking 14 participants for it. And participants have to remember that they all have to help in cooking. It's not a demonstration class. Everyone will get something to do, and we will cook and we will chat. And Hilary will also be there, and she will also give her expert advice on gluten-free, how we can make these recipes gluten-free. And then we all will taste the recipe, and we will talk about the recipes that we will teach and learn in the next class too.
Well, it so happens that I know this is going to be at the processing center, which is the low brown building behind Ardmore Library, just at the end of the parking lot. And there's a large, large table there. So everybody's going to be spread out around the table and have their own things to do, I gather.
Yes, everyone will be spread around the table. There will be 3 workstations, and the group will be divided into 2 because we are taking 14 people, and they all will have hands-on experience, and they will taste the spices, and I will introduce them to 1 or 2 unique spices too. So they have to guess what the spice is. And yes, it will be a very nice cooking class.
It sounds terrific. It really does. I love the idea that you're not just sitting on your hands, but you have to get up and use your hands and do what you're going to be doing and what you're going to teach them to do. In addition to the food and the registration and where it's going to be, a question that came up a little earlier when we chatted is, what do you do about the fact that there's no kitchen at the processing center? Hilary, I gather you're the equipment person, so maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about the kinds of equipment you're going to bring in to make these things happen.
Yeah, so we have a few different appliances that can also be used at home, and they're actually really handy. One of the things we'll be using is an Instant Pot. So we'll also show people how to use an Instant Pot, which is basically an electronic pressure cooker. So it cooks things very quickly, and it also maintains a lot of the nutrients. So we'll be making the chickpea curry in that, and we'll also be bringing a rice cooker, which you don't have to use at home, but it's handy because it should make perfect rice. And that's, again, something else that you would plug in. So that will take care of that. And then the salad will just be, we'll just need the bowls and the cutting boards and things like that.
Sounds funny. Well, Hilary, welcome aboard, by the way, as the new children's librarian at Ardmore. Nice to have you involved in this, involved in other programming too, right?
Yes, I do children's programming every Wednesday at 11:30. I do a music play group for a half an hour. It's most of the time it's in the processing center during the winter. In the warmer weather, it's out front. And the first half hour is music, and the kids have a lot of fun. It's age appropriate. And then the second half hour is playtime. So the kids get to meet each other and play, and so do the adults. So it's really become like a nice community kind of experience. The other thing that I do is a once a month sensory program that's for preschool and younger, even 1-year-olds can participate as long as they don't try to eat the stuff. Some of it is food safe, some of it will be, it varies. But sometimes we'll make slime, or we'll play with Play-Doh, or we'll paint with our fingers and get paint all over. It's really more about just exploring materials, not trying to make anything. Just, because for that age, it's so much about just experiencing the material. So it's popular, and kids really love it, and the parents love it too.
That's super. It's wonderful that our libraries have such a range of programs that the patrons can enjoy and bring their kids to, and bring a next generation to love libraries. Talking about different programs, Mayuri, I know that you're not just a wonderful cooking teacher, but you're also an artist, and you have taught art classes at the library. Can you tell us a little bit about those too?
So in the fall, I taught abstract painting. It was a 2 Monday class, which was in the evening from about 6 to 7:30. And in that, the patrons, we learned how to do abstract painting. So the first Monday, we did the base on the canvas, and then we let it dry. And then on the second Monday, they finished the painting by adding more texture to it. So that was abstract painting, and we had about 14 people who showed up for it, and all 14 registered for it too. So it was a full class. Then in fall, in November, I took a Diwali, the Festival of Light class, where we made earthen lamps and we painted it. And for that, we had 22 people, and little kids also showed up. And it was very interesting. And it was like a full class that time too. And since we had some extra painting supplies, we took 4 walk-ins. So it was a very like a family-filled event.
That's multi-generational, I would say. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
That would feel that way.
Yeah.
And do you have anything art-oriented that's coming up in the spring?
In the spring, so on December the 18th, I'm doing a class on making a dream catcher. That is full right now, the class, and we have a waiting list. So we will let the people know if there are people who sign off the class. We are taking 10 participants for that, and we are making a dream catcher. And then in January, we are doing the cooking lesson. In February, I am again teaching a cooking lesson, but this is a 1.5 hours class where we will learn how to make tea sandwiches and a pot of hot tea. So for that, we are taking 10 to 12 registrants. And then in March, I will be taking a 3D embroidery class where we will be taking about 12 participants. Yes, so we are all set till March.
Well,
And then it will be time again to take a big cooking class with Hillary. And that would be, I think, Hillary's street food.
Yeah. You wanted to make pav bhaji.
Mm-hmm. So it's like an Indian chili that you make, and you eat with toasted buns and a salad. So
it sounds terrific. I'm getting hungry just listening to all these different things. Hillary, it sounds to me like Ardmore is very lucky to have a volunteer of Mayuri's caliber and willingness to be involved.
Yeah, that was something that I really wanted to mention. Is it's just so wonderful to have Mayuri here. There's been a couple of years we haven't had adult programming, and she's just jumped right in, and everything she's come up with has been really successful and just fun and inspiring. And working with her too on the cooking programs has been also inspiring. I think we really enjoy working off of each other and learning from each other. So that's just been really wonderful.
Super, thank you. And thank you both for telling us about these terrific programs at Ardmore. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of The Library Show. Welcome back to the library show. Well, we talked about books, we talked about food, and now we're talking about the other thing, writing. You don't get books without having writing. And we're lucky to have Pamela Kripke with us because she is offering a fascinating class through Ludington Library, but it will be virtual in January, this month, on the 22nd. Pamela, welcome to the library show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I saw the title of this class and I thought, boy, for all those people out there in Lower Merion who have aspirations to be published authors, this is the perfect class. Perfect. You hear me, everybody? The perfect class, and they can sign up for it virtually. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so you don't even have to come to the library in what might be a wintry or snowy day. You could just watch this in the comfort of your own home. It starts at 7 o'clock. Is that right, on the 22nd?
That's right. 7 o'clock on Monday the 22nd.
So we've got the where, we've got the when. Let's talk about you for a moment, about what is it that you have done in the past that leads you to be teaching writing? Because that's really what this is.
Right. Well, I've been a journalist for 30 years. I started out covering breaking news, and I was always a writer at heart, more than a chronicler. But so I was, the writing was always important to me. So pretty quickly, I moved into feature writing. And then from there, I moved into essay writing, and have had a long career publishing essays and features widely. And over the pandemic, I began writing short stories. People always said to me, well, you know, your journalism sounds like fiction. So I used my powers of observation, everything I've learned from covering events and people and writing profiles and features to inform the fiction. And I got a few of those published in various literary, publications, and thought, well, why don't I write something longer? And I took an event in my family's past. Actually, it was a subject of an essay I wrote for the Huffington Post, and broadened it into a novel based on true events.
Oh, tell me the name of your novel. I'm going to write that down because I'd love to read it.
Yes, it's called At the Seams, and it's a story of a young girl who grows up to be a reporter who uncovers this family secrets surrounding an event in her family's past. And it's a situation that haunts her through childhood. And it's not until she's older, a single parent, kind of on her own, experiencing her own sense of loss, that she looks into this event in her grandparents' past and puts a lot together about the relationships between the family members and what actually happened that no one knew anything about.
But what I wanted to ask you is, you said you had done both feature writing and you were a journalist covering breaking news. Did you have any particular areas that you covered? I mean, did you cover government corruption? Did you cover the environment? What was your area?
Yeah, well, I started out as a lifestyle reporter, and when I was divorced in the early 2000s, I determined that I wanted to be home for my kids. So I wrote for anybody and everybody. So I was, a general assignment. I was living in Texas at the time. I covered breaking news for the New York Times there. So I'd get a call in the morning. They'd send me out, go cover the Ebola breakout, go cover a heat wave. So I was doing that while also writing for Dallas Magazine, doing a lot of investigative work for them, investigative profiles and features. And I've written for, the Chicago Tribune and the Dallas Morning News and Slate, Salon, Huffington Post, all the women's magazines, a lot of design publications, a lot of parenting publications. When my kids were little, I wrote a lot of parenting pieces for all of those magazines. When I was decorating a house, I wrote a lot about architecture and design and art. So I've really covered, a lot of health stories. From a medical family. I was a pre-med at Brown, so I have, been able to become an expert on a lot of different areas.
Well, I love that, because what you've done is you've really shown how your writing has tracked your life. And
Yes.
you've used all of your life in your writing. And I think that for the people out there who want to be published authors like you, maybe they want to be journalists, maybe they want to be short story writers, there's no limit to how you can use what you've done in your
Right.
writing. And in fact, it's pretty expansive if you've covered the range of things that you've mentioned. That's
Right.
pretty cool. One of the things that I feel strongly about this show is not only do we talk about events at our libraries and talk to people who are involved in them, but occasionally I get into vocational issues where I have a musician and I ask somebody, how did you get started being a musician? How did you get started being a writer? How did you get started doing other things? Because sometimes I think people have this sense of, what am I going to do with my life? Or what is my child going to do? And by
Right.
hearing you talk about the energy you put into freelancing and how successful you've obviously been at it, I think it's very positive. Now that I said that, let's go over to exactly what you're going to be teaching through Ludington on January 22nd. The title of this thing is Taking Things from Real Life and Putting Them into Your Writing. Is there any
Yes.
specific thing, and before our time is up, is there any specific thing that you think might come up in this conversation?
Well, I think that when people read my work, they always ask me, is this true? Did this happen? And secondly, they talk about the specificity. How do you remember such detail? And how much of that detail is a memory and how much of that detail is embellished and made up? So I think the main goal, and what I have writing students of my own now, and what I tell them is to look for the details and look for the specifics and try to see something the way someone else wouldn't see it. So, and every little detail that hits you for a reason, because it's your eyes looking at it.
Okay, January 22nd. Thank you so much. They can go to LMLS Ludington Library and register for it?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we have shown you what an exciting month January is through the Lower Merion Library System. Watch out for more events and join us next month for the library show. Thanks.